Seeing as that's 4:45, I'd like to call the October Park and Rec meeting to order. Are there any changes to the agenda? I'd look for a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second to adopt the agenda. Public input? Seeing none. Consider an ordinance for amending municipal code 912.126 city boat launch fee.
So that's just the ordinance that's attaching to the fee schedule that you approved from the last meeting.
Anybody got any questions on it? I'd look for a motion to adopt the amended launch fee.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded to amend the municipal code 9.126 of the city boat launch fee.
Steve.
Got it, Michelle?
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Approval of an agreement with John Bardus.
You got to vote on it.
Oops, oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, approval of agreement with John Bardus.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have Chad go over that with you guys. We've been working on that Newton Blackmore Trail project. Little hiccup. So go ahead.
There's been plenty of things to work through. We've got engineering. Pretty much 90% done, but there's a lot of coordination because there's a lot of players. There's a city, there's Outagamie County, there's the highway department, there's a DOT, there's a DNR, and there's just a lot of different things. So we're to the point now that we're just kind of getting to a stance to really negotiate legal agreements for things. And in our research so far, things we got to work out with all these players. There's a stipulation agreement for rail service under Highway 45 from the DOT from years ago. There's an industry track agreement that the city, CN, and Granite Valley Forest Products has for use of on the rail. The DNR owns the land. The city owns the rail assets on there. There's a transportation economic assistance agreement between the city and the DOT, and there's a railroad rehabilitation and improvements agreement between the city and DOT. So there's a lot of different agreements and legal things already said and done. Hence, that's why we need to hire an attorney to make sure that the next set of agreements doesn't conflict with this, because the last thing I want to see is us try to do something and then it conflicts with something, and then we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for rail development, and then all of a sudden there was a legal loophole. So we're proposing to hire attorney John Bardus. He was hired by the city several years ago to negotiate, I think it was the industry track agreement. So he's very familiar with this project. Kent and he discussed several times at that time when the city retained him about doing the trail project. So he kind of knows that, and he knows this project. He is also someone who is his specialty is working with railroads. So he knows how to deal with the railroad company. So we're proposing to hire him to filter through all of this legal mumbo jumbo and negotiate with all those players to make sure that we got an agreement that doesn't conflict with things. As you see in his proposal, he feels like he can meet the deadline of 2021 and most likely be a budget of under $5,000. So this would fit within the $15,000 that we have set up so far that we've had approved in capital projects from several years ago for engineering and this aspect of it. So I guess I'm asking for the committee's consideration to hire him to get that next step of the project done.
What's happening with the new railroad that's taken over out there, the new company that bought out the rail?
Still in process. So Canadian National is the one that currently has the rights to for service there. They are in the process of selling it to Wadco. And it's going to be, I think it's the Foxy line or something they're calling this. So this stretch that they would be using, the city actually owns the tracks on DNR property. But for the remaining sections of rail, so I mean, the section of rail that goes past Amcor and goes to Hortonville and all their other assets, that's actually owned by Canadian National, and they're going through a transfer process with that. So the negotiation, from my understanding, is done. It's just to a point that the federal government, I believe, there's a board or something that has to approve
Yeah.
these transfers. So
Yeah.
that's where it's sitting right now. So, and that's another aspect too of it, because we're negotiating with Canadian National. We need to get this thing going, but sometime down the road, we don't know when that's going to be. Waco more likely is going to be the main transportation provider.
So a good thing we're having Bardus do it because he's familiar with the whole
Yep.
thing.
And he's very familiar with and is in the he's in the inn down at the state with all the transfers with the Canadian National going to Watco.
He knew everything about the transfer of the names and the companies and where they were gonna go with the railways and that we were gonna see traffic.
Yep.
He was very versed on that already, so,
And he knows who to talk to. He was spouting off names. Yep,
Yep.
we got to talk to him and him. Yeah,
right.
he knows what's going on.
I would look for approval then to hire this John Bardus for legal services for the Newton Blackbird Trail.
I'll make a motion to approve an agreement with John Bardus DeWitt Law Firm LLP for legal services for the Newton Blackmore Trail project.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the agreement with John Bardus. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Has the plan changed at all? You guys are talking about going through the tracks down to the dog park. I know 6 months ago, you guys were thinking of going down 54.
Yep. So originally, one of the plans were to continue. The trail stops at House Road. And kind of the original plan was to continue down parallel with the tracks. And this was actually recommended by a DOT person. That's why we kind of looked at it originally. But at this point here would be to come up and then get parallel with Highway 54 and then come down River Road. And the reason being was that would skip some of the, I wouldn't say challenges, but some of the, there's a little bit we got to deal with going underneath the bridges here and the abutments in here. So that would skip that area. And the other area we have to skip is through here because it gets into the wetlands. And if you ever walked this, it's rail a couple feet and it just dives down into wetlands. So there's no way of getting a trail next to it without filling in, and the DNR is not going to let us fill in. So originally we were talking about coming along 54 here and going underneath, crossing the road, and then going underneath the bridge and working with the DOT on that. And originally the DOT was not in their head. Yep, we can make that work, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden DOT came back and said, oh, time out. There's some future plan way down the road that they need to actually move the lane a little bit to the outside because evidently it's too close to the middle pillar. And you can kind of see that. I'll go on a map this real quick. Oops, I gotta get down.
He didn't give you a ladder.
Below
I gotta get down on the road. Where's that? We gotta go over here. So what our plan was to come through, cut into this dirt area right here, and then bring the trail along here, and then end up going down River Road. But now the DOT, there's some standards or regulations or something that they need to move this road and get it away from this pillar. So someday they're going to be pushing the roadway and going to the south a little bit more, and then maybe going to the north a little bit more to get away from this guy. So that changed our plans that we couldn't continue with this plan. So the new plan, and we've been talking to DOT, and so far they're nodding their head with this. Come down parallel with the tracks, come underneath the two bridges here, and then there's a ridge along here that we're just going to come parallel with Highway 45 and then come down River Road. So this section right here is going to be the route change where we come along here and then go north instead of along 54 here, which is honestly after we've dealt with this, it's a better route because if we went parallel with 54, we would almost have to put concrete barricades in between the roadway, excuse me, between the roadway and the trail. And then also have even a higher, you ever see those barricades and they got those lath that go down? And basically what it would do is if a snowmobile was coming one way with the headlights on that side of the roadway, it would block the headlights from the traffic coming the other way. So if we would have went through along parallel with 54, there would have been a lot more items going on with that. So right now the current plan is to come down 54 or come down the rail bank until we go under 45. Go along the ridge, and you can kind of even see that ridge.
I'm not sure I'd walk it.
So is
That's
that
the ridge right here.
second plan cheaper than the original plan?
I think so. Because we
I
don't
would
have all that
think.
barricade.
Right.
That we would have but concrete barricade all the way through here. And as we were talking to DOT in some of the original plans, there was gonna have to be some stormwater issues that we weren't talking about at first that they would want us to do. So they were actually talking about, we might have to do a curb and gutter through here, system through here to take care of the water. So going with the new plan, we skip all that, which is a good thing.
So is there a time frame that we're looking at getting that built?
The grant requires us to have all the construction done by October 1st of next year. So we are pushing to use that $800 some thousand with this project. So Ginger and I have been having meetings left and right. As soon as long as the council allows the execution of the agreement next week with John Bardus, we're gonna get on the horn with him. He's gonna get his process going, and yeah, it's go time.
Anybody got anything else on it?
I think it's a better plan because I'm not sure walking underneath that bridge on 54 with semis driving by is going to be a feasible.
No.
I don't know if I would walk through there, to be honest with you.
Even with that concrete wall there,
That concrete wall ain't stopping them.
Snow removal and everything else.
Yeah.
It's just.
stuff coming off
Yep.
the bridge, you're walking underneath the bridge. The other idea is a lot better.
So it was good to talk through that process.
Yeah.
Anybody got anything else on it? Okay, review of 2022 capital projects request.
All right, so Luke and Chad both helped me with this. So either one of them, feel free to pipe in. We have a couple items here for equipment requests. Luke was gracious enough to let me have a little bit more here than he has had in the past because we don't need as many dump trucks on his, or right, dump trucks on your end. Public Works. So the big one here is that top garbage truck. That's the one you'll see driving around town. It's on the back of a 91 green Ford Super Duty right now. And I followed that down to Memorial Park one day and I swear it was going to tip over when it turned the corner just because of the weight of the garbage truck or the garbage vessel on top of the truck body. So this is a reinforced body, really much safer.
And transferring the existing garbage.
Yes,
chute
yep.
onto the new
The
truck.
garbage thing would go on top of the new truck, so. Then it's just, replacement of a couple other phased out vehicles. And then the trailer with aluminum ramps, that is what we carry our ball diamond groomer on. And I've had a couple requests from staff. It's just the aluminum ramp or the current trailer ramps are so heavy and it takes two guys to bring them down. We had poor Mike Buckman this last summer doing it and he did it, but I know that it was a very heavy piece of equipment for him. So just those are all of my equipment requests for this year. And then we'll move into, or any questions on the equipment that I have listed so far.
On the garbage truck.
Yeah.
Is that, Luke, is that able to be taken off of there? So
Yep.
like in the winter time, it can be used
Oh.
for. other
No,
purposes?
it's permanently on there after we put it there, right?
It could be moved. What it would be is just a bare chassis one ton.
Oh,
To remove it and then utilize it as something else come winter time, or it would be a task.
And we're collecting garbage year round.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So
Question.
And I do know that that trailer is in pretty rough shape.
Yeah,
Oh,
you've
yeah,
seen it
yeah. Yeah,
several
that's-
times, I
The trailer's
suppose.
old and in
I-
pretty
I-
rough shape.
there's a
I-
lot of
I look
miles
at
on
it.
that thing. They're getting during
Yeah.
the summer.
Yeah.
A lot of miles on that thing.
How big a trailer is that?
Is that,
How big a trailer is that?
what is it, a 12-footer, I do believe,
14, 12, somewhere in
14
there.
or 12, yeah. I don't
It's-
know how Mike has done it.
It's 7,800 for that trailer?
I know, it sounds kind of high.
Yeah,
For an aluminum, it varied anywhere from 3,200 on up to 14,000. I just.
Cause I know when the fire department bought that enclosed one, that's all we paid is 7,200 or 7,800 bucks.
For an aluminum one?
That's a 16-footer enclosed.
I just bought a 14-foot aluminum trailer and only paid 32 for it with a ramp on the back.
Okay.
That seems kind of expensive. Who did that quote come from?
41 Trailer Sales, I do believe is the name. It used to be over in Neenah, Highway 41.
Right on 41.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking. Are you going to look around at any other prices on that?
Absolutely, we would. Ginger and I, it was a quote. If it came down to purchasing, we do our due diligence for sure and try and get as many quotes as possible.
Okay, because that just seems kind of high to me, 7,800.
That's a budget number, but Luke, why don't you see about firming that up before it goes to the capital projects committee?
But you got anything else on capital projects? Anything else, Ginger? No?
Projects. Our project list is quite lengthy. As you can see, some of the items are just 100% like, ooh, that'd be nice to do. And so we just put to be determined on it, just thoughts that are going through our heads right now. And we want to get them on line items. The ADA compliance up there at the top, that is the CDGB funds that we have to start working on as of January 1st. So that is all funding through that grant money. Doris, so now with the transition of the split of the departments and the DPW and the Park and Rec department, there's a couple of projects on here that are split between the two or covered by DPW, but I'm going to mention them just because they were originally moved forward from the Public Services Department.
And I'm gonna take the blame on that. I should have caught a couple
Yeah.
of these and brought them over to last night's budget that we saw. But since I didn't get them on last night, I told Ginger to put them on for tonight, so you guys still see them. But we're just indicating they'll be put, because we're putting facilities into DPW now, and I didn't catch a couple of these to bring them over, so.
Right.
But you're seeing them now, and we'll just put them in there for.
They're all in
okay.
the same pool. So the door access control project that's here at City Hall and at the Washington Center Gym. So that project, the Washington Center Gym is getting some work done from last year's capital project approval. And this would be a continuation of that project. Tennis court resurfacing, that's a conversation that Chad and I have been having with the school district as well. We're not going to do those projects to that extent, obviously, especially the 200,000 in Hatton Park, if we go along with the school district and have that conversation about the 8-plex out there. But those are scheduled things that we do on a schedule. So Pfeiffer Park, you see, was done in 2014 and it's planned to do in 7 years, which would be coming up. Actually, it was supposed to be done this year. The Memorial Park feasibility and conceptual design costs, that is the third ball diamond that youth softball is considering donating. We would go through and take care of that feasibility and conceptual design project with McMahon.
And I know that we haven't discussed that this,
No.
committee, so this is brand new for you guys, so. You might have
Oh, we
seen the
brought
staff
it
notes.
up
Have we talked about
once.
that before?
I think so.
Not much, not, it wasn't, I don't remember it, no.
Okay.
So like Ginger was saying, youth softball is showing some interest in doing another diamond over at Memorial Park. We've had discussions with the historical village about maybe doing some land swapping type things, but before doing anything, we would have to do a feasibility and conceptual design, quasi engineering to kind of figure that out. So we've asked McMahon just to kind of see, okay, if we would rearrange some things and conceptually put some things here, what would the cost be? Would it work with any wetland things going on? And do conceptually and get a cost estimate for that. And then we would go to youth softball, youth baseball and say, here's the cost. Is there start fundraising and help us out? So that's kind of what that project would be.
And then the other three items there are just pipe dreams that Luke and I have, as far as, actually the demo of the old park shop down in Hatton Park is a necessity, that needs to be done. I don't know if you've been in Hatton Park lately. We're going to be going there shortly. This building is an eyesore and a liability. We have had kids try to crawl up on the roof and fall through the roof. It's in that bad of shape. So that's something that would need to be taken care of eventually sooner than later. So there are some items that we do store in that building that are worth value to us, and we would need a place to store them once we tore down this building. So that would be the continuation of the cold storage shed. Some sites that we've thought of are by the municipal garage. It would make sense because that's where all of our other equipment is, and there's room there. So the shared multi-purpose facility is a thought between New London Youth Softball, New London Youth Baseball, and myself, replacing the Ignite building, or the old True Value that we were all sharing rent in and got booted from this summer. And then the lift station at Memorial Park is something that we've been working on. We currently are just pumping that out ourselves before big tournaments and things like that. And this would alleviate that problem.
That's the bathrooms down there because there's lift
Right.
stations that pump it to the road and
Yeah,
they're not working.
not quite enough. oomph. Bleacher upgrades at Pfeiffer Park, which is part of a scheduled thing that we were planning on doing all over the parks, and that was the 2023.
Are those bought already?
No, I don't think so.
Some bleachers are pretty rough down there.
At Pfeiffer,
No, right, yeah.
and this would be replacing
A
those.
lot of
'cause-
the
Yep.
boards are rotting right off.
Yep.
They're to the point they gotta get replaced.
Yep.
This would be the same thing as we did at Memorial. They're so much better.
Yep.
And they're compliant because anything over 3 tiers, you're supposed to have the fence behind. So people don't fall over the back, so.
Page 2. These are projects that Ted had planned to do on the roof replacements on those following buildings. And then every year we try to put in some new replacement cardio equipment in the fitness room. Morgan did some research on that to update. We have a treadmill that went down right before COVID that we could have fixed, but it would have cost almost $3,000 to fix. And now we're looking at bringing it back because we don't need that. The
Social distance.
social
space.
distancing. Yeah, I don't even, the COVID speaks out of my mind now. But we would like to bring back another one of those treadmills, but we would have to put a lot of money into it. So prefer to get a new piece to replace that piece. The pool diving board is something that I have noticed the accident reports coming across my desk from the pool from kids running and slipping off of our diving board. We have replaced the surface on it several times with a sand and paint mixture that the diving board company tells us to use, but it's just not holding up anymore. I believe the diving board is the original from the pool. So that's another big cost that you wouldn't think would be so much, but it is. And that's just the board itself and not the entire apparatus. Another one of those bleacher upgrades. I know those racetrack ones are also in very poor shape. The ice rink liner for Old Settlers Park is something that we struggle with every year. We get so many phone calls. When's the ice rink gonna get filled? When's the ice rink? People don't understand that you need a certain level of frost in the ground to hold the water to make the ice. This would alleviate that problem. As soon as it starts to freeze and we have continuous freezing weather, we can have an ice rink without having to wait for that frost line to come up. So, and then the next two are DPW projects that were not listed on last night's capital projects list. So
So the floor tile upstairs
Yeah.
is getting bad. Bernie could probably nod his head. He probably goes up there quite a bit. That floor tile's getting bad. It's not something the public really goes on to, so it's kind of gets booted a lot of times, but it needs to get replaced. And then the south wall behind the police department, if you ever look behind the police department, there was a retaining wall and then there was a guardrail on top of that. And that thing was just tipping and falling apart, tipping and falling apart. Ted was constantly trying to put it back together. We finally cut the rail off just so that top weight heavy, we eliminated that so it wasn't pulling it. But that retaining wall definitely needs to be replaced, whether it's put as retaining wall, a block yet. We've talked about doing it in concrete so we can just, set it and forget it. And then we've had some talks with the neighbor about maybe, depending if we do it, maybe acquiring and purchasing, a couple feet of property, because the police department, as they come out, that's tight. It's really tight in the back there. So, if you're gonna talk about, replacing that retaining wall, now's the time to talk about if you can get a couple more feet of area so they can get in and out a little bit easier, but that's to be determined. Regardless, the wall itself needs to be replaced sometime in the near future.
In the very near future, that thing is disastrous. It's built back.
It's falling apart. It's
and
beyond
it
its
is
useful life.
tight. I know several officers have hit corners and things like that coming out of there. But that's it. So that total there is with those DPW projects included. So
And I know there's been a lot of talk about the tennis courts. I know that's a big item on there
yeah, yep,
with the school and stuff, whether they want to use Hatton. because
right.
it's got to be approved by WIA.
Yep, and so that project, from what and maybe you can say better, but we would have to completely tear down our courts and rebuild them because they're in that bad of condition. And that location is pretty low. So there's a lot of ground buildup there and that's what's causing the shifting, obviously, so.
I know that's been up on capital projects for a
Yeah,
number of
'cause
years.
it's such
As far as
I think it was about 2018, I had that professional come in and do the survey. And that's all he does is do like sport courts, tennis courts, stuff like that. And he came back and said, yeah, your courts are to the point where you have to resurface them every so many years with the asphalt court. And he said, yours are to the point, if you resurface it, you're not getting much life out of that resurfacing anymore. So you're wasting your money. So either you need to really look at, we talked about the sport court, the plastic court, which would be a cheaper general recreational type court, but the schools don't like that because they don't want to practice and play on that court and then go somewhere else and play on a different style court. Or resurface the whole thing. So we started talking to the schools with that, and the schools are more interested if they're going to spend that type of money to try to get a complex where they've got 6 or 8 courts together. Because right now when they do a tournament or even, a meet or something like that, they've got some kids at Hatton, some kids at Pfeiffer, and if they need to go at Abraham, they're splitting up all the way around. Well, they're not even doing that now because they're not even having
No.
home meets. There's
Yeah.
no home meets because their courts are so bad. So their goal is to try to do some type of multi-court complex at the high school, which is going to be one site for the whole team to play there. So Ginger and I had a conversation with the school district about that. And they're asking us to be a partner with it somehow. So we're kind of working that out to
Yeah.
see what we would do. And that's one thing we're gonna talk about
Yep.
today, I think, about
Yep,
if we would
yep,
do
we'll
that.
take a look at them. they have a really nice plan, from what we've seen and what they sat down and showed us.
We're not gonna let the cat out of the bag yet, because that's
Right.
theirs to let out the bag.
Yeah,
what their plan is.
exactly. Yeah. But, and you know, if that does come to fruition and that's what they're gonna do and we're gonna do, we would still have to put some money into our courts. We can't just let them sit out there like they are, because that's an embarrassment to the city, obviously. And whether it to be, you know, making them into that sport court that Chad was talking about, it's a really nice option for recreation. Making them basketball courts, maybe just pulling up Hatton and just having it be green space, which would probably be the most feasible option in that location. But it's gonna cost us no matter what, but
Yeah, the point is, we don't need, they hypothetically.
we don't
if
need
they
20
did-
courts in town.
Yeah, if they did an eightplex out there, we don't need 16 courts in town. You know, we don't need that much. So how would we repurpose what we have already if that's the
Right,
best scenario for both the city and the school? So
right. And we do have that agreement with the school district where, you know, they can be recreationally used by the community still. So we'll see.
but they're asking us to be a partner.
To be
Oh,
determined.
yeah.
So,
Okay, that's all for capital projects then?
yes, sir.
Okay, director's report.
Okay, you'll see in my memo, kind of what we have going on. I am the years of service this year, or this month, which is kind of awkward, but yeah.
Congratulations, Ginger.
I hit 19 years on the 28th. That's fun.
Congratulations.
Thanks. And Michelle emailed you your usage and financial statistics. Feel free to reach out to us at any time if you have any questions with that. Special event permits and upcoming events. Maybe last weekend you drove by City Hall and saw that there was a women's right for healthcare rights, a little gathering at right here on the corner. From what I heard from the report this morning is everything went well. There was some excitement, but nothing to speak of really. I know the mayor, you attended or just,
Came and dropped off water for them all.
that was nice of you. Thank you for doing that. And then we have our annual haunted trail coming up on October 29th. That's something that we've been doing for, well, since I've been here for 19 years, we've been doing it for 19 years. And Morgan will be taking that over and I'll be helping her with that. As far as updates on projects and notable information, I know that we were all kind of looking forward to Lauren Deek being here from the Outagamie County Parks Recreation Department. However, he was unable to join us. I'm going to keep working at him because I would like to see the county court plan and this View Ridge nature area. I'm not really sure what they have planned there and I would like him to present that. So I'm going to continue to work on that with him. Currently in-house, I'm just working with Jim and Morgan on their new positions with the haunted trail. And so as I mentioned in the budget, I am working with some members of the Youth Softball Association on that plan with Memorial Park. And we have been dealing with a strain of vandalism in all of our parks. You may have seen on Facebook that we did have to close them temporarily. We did reopen them and Luke's crew is locking them at night right now. A little update on that project. They did catch the vandals at Memorial Park. Spoke with Mike Harlow from the police department this morning. Luckily, our cameras picked up the faces and actually Mike walked into the school and saw the boy wearing the exact same sweatshirt that he wore on the video. And was like, hey buddy, you want to talk about Memorial Park? And he like hit his other buddy and said, I told you they were going to see us on the camera. So,
Wow.
cameras do pay off. So we will be hopefully receiving $330 for restitution on that project, pending the court case with the municipal court. So that's little project, side project that I was working on. And then, like I said, Chad and I met with Scott and Joe with talks about those tennis courts. So we'll take a look at them in a little bit. Any questions on anything that we have going on in the department right now?
You got anything? I don't have anything for chairman's report. Any committee members got anything? Future agenda items?
Um,
Hopefully get Lauren in.
What, hopefully to get Lauren in. Do we have to, anything about Newton Blackmore, the start of that,
Regarding,
the start?
oh, yeah, there might be something with the Noon Blackmore after these negotiations, just to kind of get some projects going. So to be determined, but yeah, as needed. Other than that, I don't think there's anything too pressing
No.
right now.
Okay.
It'd be nice to get Lauren in and talk about, the court plan for the county.
I did speak with a contractor about the Hatton Park wall, so maybe I'll have some numbers with that by then. That's all that I can think of right now.
Maybe that should be something that we add.
Yeah,
Did you have a Hatton Park wall in?
no, but I thought once I get something solid, he said he would have it to me by the end of the week, so.
So that might be something to add on the capital projects list, a line item for wall repairs, depending on what Ginger finds
Yeah, we'll
out.
see.
Only thing I got is that, that ice rink. I'm surprised you get calls on that because
Every single day,
Oh, yeah.
all the
it's
time.
crazy because I
And they
never see
don't figure it
anybody
out.
on it. And I always thought, I laugh every time. I'm like, oh, they're filling that again. Like, why?
It's closed most of the time because they
Yeah.
don't,
Because it doesn't work because the water doesn't freeze.
You
because
guys
of
probably
frost
get
line.
what, 3 weeks of good
Right.
ice?
if
Yep,
that,
and we would
sometimes.
have more than that if we had a liner because it would regulate that ground temperature.
And I would think what's bringing most of that in is our surrounding communities all have theirs up. And
Yep,
They're like, well, how come ours isn't filled?
and Wapaka is a huge, there's kids from New London that play on the Wapaka team. And that's what we hear from, as those parents that say, I'd rather not take my kid to open skate in Wapaka. Just if they could come down to Old Settlers and actually skate.
There's actually a lot of hockey stuff going on in New London. There's
Yeah.
a lot of hockey kids. What was it last year? We had a New London girl win a national.
Yeah, yep. So,
Just out of town, there's a family that puts one up in their backyard.
yeah. Well, Mike Buckman, our Parks guy, he used to have one in his front yard and it was busy all the time.
That's right, to take my daughter ice skating.
The Mike's.
So
Oh.
outside of town.
Oh, yeah. And families can do that with a line, with a, plastic liner that they probably get from Kerwood and some bales of hay, but
I think the liner's a really good idea. I
do
think it
too.
is. I think it gives you a lot more of a ice skating season.
And maybe that's something that we can transition into as a community. as an
program.
Event.
Yep. Absolutely. Morgan could do programming on that.
Okay, discuss and confirm a next meeting date, Tuesday, November 2nd. Does that work for everybody? Okay. Looks like we're gonna recess and go to the park tour.
Yeah.
And usually make a motion for that. So
I need
someone
a mo-
motions
yeah.
the seconds to recess and go on the park tour. Yep.
So I need a motion for us to go into recess. Motion made. Don, second. Motion made and second to go into recess. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Well, I'm always in favor of recess.
Even when you're a little kid, huh? School.
At this point in time, we are going to be canceling the Zoom because we don't have that capability to take it out on the tour. So thanks, everyone.